This is the 4th day of the June 85 7-day retreat. At first, a request. Would it be possible that people who are leaving the house at meeting time leave it before meetings start? But if for some reason that's not possible, and one has to leave the house or wishes to leave the house after meetings have started, please not to walk on the path. At first it's gravel, then it's wood chips, which leads by the meeting room, but leave this house in the opposite direction and find an alternate path down to the barn or to wherever one needs to go or wishes to go through the meadow below. Meeting time is a very quiet time. Sometimes the talking is very quietly, and the crushing of steps can be an interference. Since it comes up in so many meetings, we will today talk about fear. In talking about other things during previous talks, like thoughts, for instance, some people have said it's a relief to hear that other people too have thoughts. Maybe it wasn't put quite in this simple fashion, but we so much tend to think that we're the only ones who are not with it, or worse, or better, who have problems. The others don't seem to have them, and that adds to this feeling, to this ache of isolation. And to hear that fundamentally problems do not differ from one human being to another, that in itself can be a relief, relieving this extreme sense of separateness and differentness. So in talking about fears and looking at fears, can we all look at it together? Not as his personal fears or her personal anxiety, but fear or anxiety as it manifests in human beings, which is oneself. We will enumerate, describe some fears, but there is probably no end of them, of the variety of fears. the fear of having done something wrong, and either people remembering and carrying with them that memory, and the fear of facing people who know of what one has done in the past, fear of people gossiping about one, talking badly about one, spreading rumors about one, the fear of retaliation, maybe for what one has done, and the fear of this being paid back to one in some form or another. Or just the fear and anxiety about having done something that one regrets and fears the effects of it, the consequences of it. There's the fear of losing what one is attached to. A job, a person, or a group of persons. One may have to move away from a group of friends, the fear of losing friendship, fear of losing the security of a job, which is the fear of the unknown, what will happen to me now, the fear of the future, which is unknown. Fear of losing property or money that one may have invested. If one looks at the news, reads the newspapers, fear of war, fear of the bomb. And inwardly, fear of one's own conflicts, one's own problems, that one may not be able to resolve them. It happens particularly in a retreat, if one comes close in touch with inner problems, inner division, or the repetitiveness that one sees of what has occurred in the past and is occurring now, and the fear that this will occur forever, that one will not be able to be free of one's patterns, one's habits, which one recognizes cause innumerable problems for oneself and others. The fear of remaining stuck with no way out. Or looking inside, the fear of one's own rage, anger, that it may break out, and the fear of oneself, really. In rage, in anger. The fear of other people that one works with or lives with, the fear of their anger or disapproval. The fear of disapproval, of not being appreciated, of not being loved. Fear that one's actions, the way one sees, they come out so automatically, will lose one the approval or the love and appreciation of maybe one's closest friends. And connected with that always the fear of loneliness, being abandoned. Fear of failure, which comes from comparison with others who seem to be successful. Fear of not making good in life, not making something out of one's life, whatever that may mean. One has heard it so much, make something out of your life. And the fear of maybe never being able to do that, not quite even understanding what that means. Fear of wasting one's life. Whatever that may mean, one has heard it so much. Why are you wasting your life? Or you're wasting your life. Which is connected with a fear of disapproval by others. Or not having the approval, which gives this sense of energy of being somebody. Fear of not getting it or losing it. Even if one has it, one may lose it tomorrow. Somebody recently wrote me about having heard an interview with a very famous singer, world famous singer, who the moment she would start a song, there was just this unshakable sound coming out. And one could relax, one didn't have to be afraid that the voice may break. And this particular singer was interviewed, and she said that there was panic and anxiety before every performance. She was an old lady now. That the voice may not come out, or that the people may not applaud, or love her production. Every performance. That's what she reported. And the person who wrote the letter said, this is the way I feel about my everyday life, always worrying, will people approve of me? Will I remain loved? In listening, does one see oneself in some of this, or all of this? And wondering whether one has to live this way, whether this is inevitable. Unchangeably laid down as a pattern in human living. In a retreat, fears may come up particularly strongly and clearly. Maybe there is a moment where there is nothing in the mind, sort of an interval, a gap between trains of thought. And if this enters consciousness, awareness that there is nothing, there may be the fear of nothing, or the fear of being nothing. Or one may sense it as boredom, nothing much happening, and then an anxiety comes up with that. Nothing happening. What will happen next? Am I doing the right thing? Or what would be the right thing to do? That fear has been reported variously by people with little structure left, And very often people sitting, attending, maybe one had a practice before but one has dropped that. And then comes the fear, am I doing right now? I should be doing something. There's this habitual nagging feeling, I should be doing something, and if I'm not doing something, I must be doing something wrong. And then looking for something to do, maybe a new practice. It is like, maybe one has seen these time-lapse movies of a vine that has not found the pole yet. And if one, it's a beautiful thing actually, the way it just sways around with all the tentacles spread out for something to hold on to. And then it comes in touch with something, and immediately I don't know whether tentacles is the right word, the word for these little arms which have little suction cups. And something is found and the thing closes up and one has one's security. The vine has found the pole. And if that pole was removed, rotted, it would start all over again, swaying around in all directions for something new to hold on to. And once the pole has been found, then with a sense of relief, the swaying stops for that time. And so with us, if we have found something to wind ourselves around, to give us support, the anxiety may subside, there may be a temporary feeling of comfort. And little or no questioning. This may be why one still keeps looking or wondering whether one doesn't need a practice, because it's scary to be in open space with nothing to hold on to. And then the thoughts, people have reported this time and time again, what will be next? What will be taken away here next? Which causes anxiety. That thought may cause anxiety. If one is used to being braced by poles, by stakes, if one has stakes to hold on to. The example, if one thinks about it, is quite clear that empty space cannot be explored as long as one just moves around in it to find something to be anchored to. Then the anchor is always the important thing, and one fails to find out what empty space is. Coming back to the fears and what they elicit and trigger throughout the organism. One can feel it for oneself. The tightness, often it's felt as tightness in the throat or chest, or an upset stomach, intestines which are not quiet, which rumble, tension throughout the muscles, the limbs, maybe a sore back, pain in the neck or headache. may all be evoked or triggered by fear. Maybe not just by fear alone, but the immediate reaction to the fear. The reaction, I don't want this. How can I get rid of it? It's bad. I remember it from other times. It leads to more fear, to more ache. And so the separation from the whole thing, either escaping from it or controlling it, it happens so quickly. We have built up these habits all our life. Because fear, we may have been born with it already, leaving the womb into a cold, painful environment from the warmth and non-separation of the womb, into the cold and being grabbed by some hands or forceps. And then, of course, all the fears as a child, the fears of the adult, the all-powerful adult. Many people, in sitting and when things calm down in the surface consciousness, all kinds of childhood fears come up. Terror, as some people describe it, just plain terror. And then the terror, to face that terror, or the repressive mechanisms, the escape mechanisms that set in, so in order not to face it, they have operated all one's life. Because I think for every child who has had too much terror and too much pain, there comes a moment when no conscious decision is made, but the whole organism may say, this is enough, no more of that, and having ways of capsuling this whole thing off, insulating it from the rest of the feelings, or all the feelings, numbing. And yet, the brain functions in such a way that there are associations. Maybe one has forgotten the direct instant of the terrorizing experience, but this reminds one, and that reminds one of that, and then that reminds one of this and that, and the chain goes on, till something may trigger a fear which may have nothing to do at all with the original incident, but somehow or other it is associated through these links, associative links that the brain forms. I remember once traveling with our son who hated school. We drove by, it was out west, a depot of school buses, little yellow school buses lined up in a depot. And he just held his hands over his eyes and just turned his face away. Slightly joking, but there was a real seriousness in it too. He had never ridden in a school bus. School was right across the street. And he said, I hate yellow. This is why sometimes people say it's not, my fears aren't triggered by thoughts, they sort of live in the organism. It doesn't need a thought to have them rumble. But it does need a memory. If there was no memory, I wonder whether there would be any fear. Direct memory or associated memory. If that was not there, I wonder whether there would be any fear. Because one knows that when there is such presence of mind, such awareness, that memory doesn't function, fears don't function either. They're not there, they're not triggered. One is here with what is and not linking up through the various networks of channels with what was. But when that attention is not there, all of this network of channels is in operation. And one may find oneself gripped by anxiety and not knows where it came from. So then what is one to do? We all face this problem. We're all in the same boat together with this. It's not a human being, I think, throughout the world, whether it's north, east, south, or west, who is not living with an acute, chronological, or deeply repressed set of fears and acting out of those. The action out of fear, as we've mentioned it, we'll look at it again, attaching to something. We mentioned the pole for the plant. For us it is a person or people, a group of people, property, money, a job with position, ideas, political ideas or religious ideas or both, as that pole to hold on to so as not to feel the fear of being alone, or rather lonely, separate. Because being alone, meaning not being attached or dependent, really being alone, not also compulsively detached. This can be another pole to grab onto, the pole of detachment, shunning people, so that one will not be hurt by them or reminded of what people have done to one long ago. Also, one will not be going through another loss. One may have gone through so many losses, and again the brain says enough. So one rigidly adheres to a principle of detachment and follows a plan or a program of not attaching oneself. That is not aloneness. Aloneness is not motivated by fears. So what can one do in the presence, immediate or sub or unconscious fears? Of course, there has to be awareness of it first, that's clear. What one is not aware of, one cannot face. One is then caught in other habits. But if there is awareness of fear, could that be taken as a very precious opportunity to come face to face with it? Or to observe all the learned, conditioned responses to it or away from it? To learn about all the escapes that one has taken so blindly, so unawares, all along? To see that clearly? With that seeing that does not judge? or want a result. Is it possible that the energy just gathers in being there as one is, shaking with fear? All the physical symptoms there, and all the reactions that want to come out to repress it or get over it, to conquer it, or just not think of it, not think about it, wanting to turn away from it. Can all of that be illumined in attention, which is motionless, quiet, and doesn't know how to go about this whole thing, which doesn't even know the fear? As soon as you know it, the link, the network with all the past fears is established. But if you realize, and that's the truth, if you realize that you do not know this quote-unquote fear which is manifesting itself this moment, this terror, if you realize that you don't know it, all you know is memories about it, partly repressed memories, distorted memories, that this thing as it is emerging right now is not known to you. How does one meet it? Is it possible to meet it? The words are dualistic. Not I meet that, but how can one be just that? Without sticking the head into the sleeping bag and zipping it up tight. Exposed to the tornado. Wondering what it is all about. You could say it's nice and easy to describe it, but I can't do it. If one says that, then one already has closed the book, the chapter. Then, if you say I can't do it, then one doesn't do it. One has an idea about one's capacities, a conclusion about them. But it will happen. It will happen again. It will happen again and again. This will come up. If one sees that looking away, taking escapes, attaching to things, people, does not end fear. On the contrary, if we take some time out, one is attached very much to a person in order to avoid the fear of loneliness, then there's the fear of losing that person, isn't there? Or that person turning away from one, losing interest in one. So to the old fears, a new fear has been added. And so it is with anything one attaches to it. None of it is guaranteed to stick around. It doesn't. Things come and go. How can one stand on one's own 2 feet or sit on one's own seat? Or walk? It doesn't, the posture is not the important thing, but what's important is, can one meet fear, terror, and not know what to do about it, not know it, like a stranger. We're afraid of meeting strangers. We're afraid of anything we don't know. The brain is so programmed to make sure it'll know next time. But with all its mechanisms of habit, it gets us into constant division, conflict and isolation. Not in all its activities, I'm not saying that. But in this thing of remembering fear and trying to shut it out and seek for security in something that's not secure or someone. So is it possible when a seemingly devastating terror comes up, or anxiety that feels as though one was falling apart, to sit there or walk, stand, and not know it, and in complete stillness, the stillness of listening, the motionlessness of listening, attending, and not knowing. What to do or what will come of it, or what this thing is. The energy is in the attention and not in scanning for trying to label it or describe it or explain it. Then one is linked with a whole network of associations, each one adding its fears. Someone once came to a meeting and told me that she was consumed by rage right at this moment, not yesterday or last round, but in entering the room. It was boiling over practically. She told me that. And she asked, to what degree can I right now express this rage even if it is direct against you? I feel I've never done this and I have to do this. This thing just cries for expression. It's never been expressed. It's always been repressed, controlled, clamped down. Can I do it? Is it possible to do it? And without saying yes or no, I wondered whether this rage, as it was right there, had ever been looked at so attentively, so wholly. With all the energy right there in this whole ball of rage, anger, and attention. And this person did it. We were doing it together, right then and there. And after a while, the person said, it doesn't have to be expressed. I always thought it had to be expressed. Always suppress something. I'm not saying don't express anger. I'm not saying anything like that. But one is always repressed, there comes this feeling, I gotta shout it out, I gotta scream at somebody or hit somebody, pound the wall. One's whole system is go and do it. And that I'm sure it would afford a tremendous relief for the moment and then tremendous regrets afterwards if one has hurt a person. Or if an image comes up again about oneself. Or several images, the one who's not angry, who's controlled, and the one who has lost his or her control. And nothing would have been profoundly understood. At least I don't think so. And it's the same with fear, it's the same with anything. Jealousy, a burning jealousy, hurt, whatever deeply moves one that one has so judged or else not even been aware of because it didn't fit with the image. If it comes up, what an incredible opportunity to not push it away, to not know it, and not know what particular means would help this thing is all knowledge, applied knowledge. But this thing right now is alive. It can't be captured with knowing it. Can it be lived in attention? So it can reveal itself. All the stuff that may still be underneath it, all of it seen. One may say this takes courage, but this is just another of our ideas. It may just take no choice, that there is no choice. One has tried everything. It only leads to more fear, new fears. And it just hits one. That this thing is there. One is that. And one is not asleep, one is awake. We will end here for today.